RFK Jr. is putting AI in charge of your medicine. Here's what went wrong. In April of 2026, in a Senate hearing room in Washington, the United States Secretary of Health and Human Services said something remarkable about the agency that decides which medicines you are allowed to take. Robert F. Kennedy Jr. suggested that artificial intelligence may one day make the Food and Drug Administration irrelevant. Not faster, not more efficient, irrelevant. He has been making a version of this argument for over a year. In an interview with Tucker Carlson, he described creating what he called an AI revolution inside his department and said that at the FDA, drug approvals could be done very, very quickly with artificial intelligence, potentially without animal testing at all. In February of this year, he went further, arguing that AI can outperform physicians in diagnosis and prescribing, and that this should shift power away from what he called corporatized medicine and toward patients. Now, I want to be genuinely fair here because there is a real argument underneath this. Drug approval in the United States is slow and expensive. Phase 3 clinical trials, the ones Kennedy specifically mentioned to lawmakers, are the longest and most costly part of the process. If artificial intelligence could compress those timelines safely, the benefit to patients waiting for treatments would be enormous, and the enthusiasm is not confined to one political camp. According to a 2026 survey by the American Medical Association, about 81% of physicians now report using AI in some form for searching medical research, for triage, for documenting visits, for generating discharge instructions. AI in healthcare is not a fringe idea, it is already here. So the question is not whether AI belongs in medicine, the question is whether the specific systems being deployed right now are reliable enough for the specific decisions they are being handed. And that is where this story gets uncomfortable. The FDA's AI tool is called Elsa. It was rolled out agency-wide with considerable fanfare. And according to reporting by CNN, which spoke with current and former FDA officials, Elsa has a problem that anyone who has worked with large language models will recognize immediately. It invents studies that do not exist. One agency worker described it in a single sentence that I think is the most important quote in this entire story. Quote, "Anything that you don't have time to double-check is unreliable. It hallucinates confidently," end quote. Another FDA employee told CNN something even more revealing about what this means in practice. Quote, "AI is supposed to save our time, but I guarantee you that I waste a lot of extra time just due to the heightened vigilance that I have to have regarding fact-checking potentially fake or misrepresented studies." End quote. Read that again because it inverts the entire premise. The tool that was supposed to accelerate the agency is, by the account of the people using it, costing them time, not because the technology is useless. Insiders say Elsa is genuinely helpful for summarizing meetings and drafting email templates, but the moment it touches the thing it was purchased for, which is scientific literature, it starts producing citations to research that was never conducted. If you have never encountered this before, the term for it is AI hallucination. It is not a bug in the traditional sense. It is a structural property of how large language models work. These systems are trained to produce text that is statistically plausible given everything they have seen. They are not trained to know whether something is true. When a model does not have the right answer, it does not stop and say so. It generates something that looks like the right answer, with the same fluency, the same formatting, the same confident tone as a correct response. That is why the FDA employee used the word confidently. A hallucinated citation does not look uncertain. It looks exactly like a real one. And this brings us to the second documented case, which happened before Elsa and should have functioned as a warning. In May of 2025, the department released its flagship health report, known as the Make America Healthy Again report. It was intended as a foundational document, a statement of health policy priorities for the country. Researchers examining the 68-page report found something odd in the source list. 522 of the scientific references contain the string OAICITE embedded in their URLs. That marker indicates the citation was collected using OpenAI's tools. That alone would not be scandalous. Plenty of researchers use AI to help gather sources. The problem was what happened when journalists actually checked the sources. An investigation by NOTUS found 7 studies referenced in the report that the listed authors said were either wildly misinterpreted or had never existed at all. Not misquoted, never conducted. So we have 2 documented instances, roughly a year apart, of the same failure mode inside the same department. And in both cases, the failure is identical, a system that produces authoritative-sounding references to research that is not there. Now, you might reasonably assume that after the first incident, the response would be tighter verification requirements. Here is where the story takes its most consequential turn. The Office of the National Coordinator for Health IT, the body that regulates electronic health records, has proposed rules that would remove 2 existing requirements for health technology products. The first is user-centered design testing, which requires developers to demonstrate that their products actually work as intended when used by real clinicians. The second is more directly relevant. It is a mechanism called AI Transparency Model Cards, which allowed clinicians to examine what data an AI advisory tool was trained on before trusting its recommendations. Both requirements would be eliminated under the proposal. Public comment closed in February of 2026. The rule has not been finalized. The American Hospital Association objected, so did the American College of Physicians. Raj Ratwani, a researcher at MedStar Health who specializes in how people interact with technology, has been publicly warning about this. His concern is specific. There is currently no safeguard in place to vet AI scribe software at the federal level, and the proposed rules would weaken transparency requirements further rather than strengthening them. So the pattern, stated plainly, is this. An agency deploys AI tools that demonstrably fabricate scientific sources. The same department simultaneously proposes removing the requirements that would let clinicians check what those tools were trained on. And the Secretary describes the technology as capable of making the entire regulatory agency irrelevant. I want to be careful about what conclusion follows from that because there are 2 wrong ones available. The first wrong conclusion is that this proves AI has no place in medicine. It does not prove that. The same underlying technology is delivering real value elsewhere in healthcare right now. Pharmaceutical companies use AI to screen millions of chemical compounds, compressing early-stage discovery from years into weeks. Telehealth providers use it to flag complications and adjust dosing in real time. Radiology AI matches or exceeds human performance on specific detection tasks. The code is not the problem. The second wrong conclusion is that this is simply a political failure specific to one administration or one secretary. That framing is comfortable but too easy. Every large institution deploying AI right now is running into the same wall because the wall is technical, not political. The question of whether you can trust AI output in a high-stakes setting has the same answer regardless of who is asking it. You can trust it exactly as far as your ability to verify it. What actually distinguishes the successful deployments from the failures is that boring, unglamorous thing. Verification infrastructure, a pharmaceutical company that uses AI to screen compounds, then runs physical experiments on the candidates. The AI generates hypotheses. The lab checks them. The failure mode at the FDA is not that they used AI. It is that they deployed a system that generates citations into a workflow where checking every citation was not built in, and then, according to the proposed rules, moved to reduce the verification requirements elsewhere in the system. Which brings me to what this means for you, and I think there are 3 practical takeaways. First, if you use AI tools yourself, and if you are watching this channel you almost certainly do, treat any specific factual claim, any citation, any statistic as unverified until you check it. Not because AI is useless, but because hallucination is not an occasional glitch. It is what the technology does when it does not know something. Second, when you hear an institution announce that AI will make some slow process fast, the question to ask is not whether the technology is capable. It is what the verification step is. If nobody can tell you who checks the output and how, the announcement is a plan for speed without a plan for accuracy. Third, and most importantly for the next few years, the fight over AI transparency rules is one of the most consequential policy debates happening right now, and it is happening almost entirely without public attention. Model cards sound like a technical detail. What they actually determine is whether the person advising you on your health can find out what their software was trained on. That is not a technical question. It is a question about whether trust in these systems is earned or assumed. The Secretary is not wrong that artificial intelligence will change medicine. He may well be right that it eventually transforms how drugs are approved. What the record from his own department shows is that the technology is not there yet, that the failures are documented and repeated, and that the response so far has been to remove verification rather than add it. That is what this channel is for, separating what the technology can actually do from what it is announced as doing. If that is useful to you, subscribe and hit the bell, because we do this every week. And I want your read in the comments. Would you trust an AI-assisted drug approval if you knew the same system had invented studies before? I read every single one. See you in the next video.